Welcome to Carrying Stones and Digging Holes to Cultivate Consciousness, where, for the next 2 hours, Bridgette Dolgoff and Kelsey Sweet will be sharing their knowledge and understanding with their own beautifully unique twists on all topics related to helping humanity to achieve betterment of health in body and in mind. Settle yourselves down on this fine Saturday evening. For now, it is time for Bridgette and Kelsey.
Had to wait for that last drop. All right, everybody. Hey, Bridgette Dolgoff, Kelsey Sweet, and we're here to cultivate your consciousness. I dug some holes today, so I'm ready. I'm ready. So we're doing a women's kind of a vaccine panel, and I have to call on Mitzi. So, hey, Kelsey, can you tell everybody about the donation?
Yeah. Yay!
Tell them all about all that. I'm going to be right back.
All that fun stuff. You can go to our website at revolution.radio, I believe, right? freedomslips.com. And you can click on the links to donate in various different fashions. You can pay by check, you can pay by Jack, you can pay by Bitcoin, you can pay by Patreon, you can pay by buying a t-shirt, all that fun stuff. You can go to our different websites to find out more about us as well. You can go to COV. Hello?
Hi. Who's this?
Hi. Oh.
Hello?
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 Hi.
This is you. Who is this?
This is Kelsey.
Oh, hey, Kelsey.
Hi.
This is Mitzi.
Hi, Mitzi. How's it going?
I'm good. Okay, cool. So I guess Bridgette's gonna. I was just listening to the show, so I guess I thought you were talking right now on the show.
Yeah, we're totally live. And
we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So welcome in.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, I thought I was gonna come on through the Skype, but that's cool. Okay.
I think you are, and I think Mona's here, and Bridgette should be here as well. I don't know if everybody has their microphones off or not.
Okay, so this is not going to go through Skype then, right?
No, it's going through Skype. You just got called by phone. That's all.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We've got Skype going now. That's how we're all connected, and so.
Let's just hung up.
All the fun.
So maybe she's going to Skype. I don't know, but I think Bridgette called her by phone because her phone showed up, and so. Otherwise, how are you, Kelsey?
I'm doing okay. I'm in the midst of my studio / garage, and I'm like trying to reorganize things and whatnot. I'm having my uncle's kiln delivered to my house on Monday, so I'm trying to make room in my garage for kiln amongst everything else that's in here too. So
I did ceramics
for being a little bit
17 years. I know exactly what a kiln is. You'll have dust everywhere.
I'm super excited. It'll probably be a while before we get to plug it in, but I've been lucky enough to have inherited one of my uncle's kilns and his cake wheel as well. So I'm looking forward to at some point getting to dive into ceramics and whatnot more. But if you'd see the current state of my studio, probably sounds like my brain at the moment. But I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited to get to talk with you ladies as well. As I understand, we're having a vaccine panel today.
Yeah, so who wants to get started on the vaccines? Who wants to talk about what's going on with them with it right now, current events, and then we can talk about research and all that.
Well, have either one of you actually gotten it?
No.
Hell no.
Yeah, same here. But I have seen those who have gotten it, and it's pretty scary.
I think it's kind of scary how excited people are to get it, or for the opportunities to get it, and the psychological relief that some people are receiving from the opportunity just to get the vaccine.
Well, I've had people turn on this to the point where they want to start a fight with me because I'm not doing a mask or vaccine. It's not a vaccine. See, nobody wants to investigate the true validity of the power behind this play that is being busted upon us. Because they're too busy watching the TV and listening to those who have no clue. It's literally a lie in the face. You're right. People are bowing down to it like it's some kind of new god. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Mitzi's back.
Girls.
I got dumped off for a few minutes, but I'm back on, and I just got Mitzi back on. So.
Oh, okay.
My Skype was acting up.
Your scum.
My scum was acting up. Freudian slip. Oh, my scum. All right. Anyway, Mitzi, you want to talk about some of the stuff you're going through?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm going to be a little cryptic about what exactly is going on, but basically,
we can hear her good. You guys.
You hear okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, great.
I'm just on my laptop. I don't have headphones or anything. So, but yeah. So I'm living with somebody, a roommate, who well, it's my house, and anyway, it's a long story. But anyway, so this person, we made an agreement. He likes to do sweat lodges, and I knew that there was some people that wanted him to come be in a sweat lodge with them. I declined because the leader had just got his second vaccine, or not vaccine, but the shot.
Right.
Yeah. And so I had told him a month ago that, if he goes in with somebody who's vaccinated or who's had that shot, that he's going to have to find a place to live for a while. And I don't think he took me seriously, even though I did tell him 3 times. Other 2 times we got a little elevated conversation the first time. Oops. And then the second 2 times I just wanted to make sure that he understood that I was serious. And I don't think he took it seriously, because he came back right after the sweat lodge, and he had gotten in. And so I said, "Oh, did you come get your stuff?" And anyhow, I made him leave. And
good.
Yeah, so I don't know what to say. It's been a week. It'll be a week tomorrow, because he came back after my show last week. And then I said, "Well, you need to just get your stuff." And I said, "Don't make me, I don't want to. I just want this to happen easy. You just need to go. And don't make me get into the whole kicking you out thing. Let's just do this, And so, yeah, and I haven't really found out. I thought, I'd find out some information about the whole, the possibility of shedding. And so that's what I was kind of hoping to get from any information that you all had. I know I've talked to you early in the week, and it's kind of like nobody really knows. It's uncharted.
Judy Mikovich did say yes, there is shedding, because I was on a show with her. Oh, what other show was she on? So I joined the call. It wasn't me and her interview, even though her and I did an interview Thanksgiving. But Judy Mikovich says yes, there is shedding.
So let's just talk about, okay, so I just want to tell people out there, Mitzi is a Chinese medicine professional. I'm an osteopath professional, also do nutrition and herbal medicine. So, and we've done some research. So I just want to also say that Mitzi, also the stuff that came out of the sweat and was brought to her house had, she said, a really weird, uncomfortable aroma, and that really alerted her and made her more nervous and stressed out about the situation.
Right.
The other thing too is like all vaccines shed. They have since the beginning of time. And this is the part where I specialize because I work on animals and I work on people. And over the last, I don't know, about 6 years, I've had clients who have gotten animal viral agents from their animals. And I tell people that, there should be a warning label on all vaccines.
Right.
And that people should be quarantined for 7 to 10 days from everyone and everything, including animals. And animals should be quarantined from people. And this is before this new vaccine. And animals should be quarantined for 7 to 10 days away from people. So medical doctors do not test for animal diseases, even though they won't test for anything that the CDC, and these different people don't give them. So,
Right.
for example, if they have swine flu and have bird flu, and these are all man-made, these have been made. They've been released. We have, a new type of Lyme disease. You can watch a program called Under My Skin, I think. It's horrifying. You die. It's a neurological disease that, people are not having any success with getting rid of. And so these are all manufactured to cross species lines, also to wipe out our food supply and then also to make us really sick. And so a lot of this information doesn't really seep into people. So a lot of the clients, I had one client in particular who I warned about, she really just wanted to take her dog to doggy daycare. And there was a huge, flu outbreak with all the doggies. Of course, if you're going to keep them all in one area and they all poop and pee, that's a problem. That's a sanitation problem, right out the gate. But because of it, they wanted all the dogs to have the kennel cough, and so they were giving them a live virus through the nose, a drop. And what happened is that my client, her immune system was really low. She ended up getting the virus, even though the medical professional couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, right? She had this really bad, they couldn't figure out if it was a croup, if it was a strep infection, because she kept coming no on some of the tests, right? But eventually she got so sick, respiratory, it damaged her lungs. To this day, she uses an inhaler because, she can't breathe. And mind you, she was a bodybuilder. She was a professional bodybuilder, and she was a physical trainer. And so, not somebody who's like, not that healthy and not dumb. So I've seen clients of mine who have gotten freaky, skin, viral agents. And, remember, viruses are not real, right? Viruses are not real. So the only way that you could get some kind of virus is if it was made and then given to you. And the fact that they're trying to vaccinate everybody right now when nobody has any samples of the COVID, right? There are universities, there are scientific, PhD medical lab professionals that are suing the CDC right now because they can't get a hold of what the virus supposedly looks like, what COVID looks like, and they're not sending these samples out. So the universities are actually suing right now the CDC and a whole host of other agencies because as far as they're concerned, it's not real. Because all the samples that, like in California, UCDC, University of San Diego, he had 1,500 samples that he asked to be sent that were supposed positive, and he didn't find anything that was different than flu A and flu B. So the only way they can give you this virus is if they inject it into your body. And this is kind of like, so this is what's happening. This is why all these people are coming down with COVID right after they're getting vaccinated. And there's a whole host of other stuff. But these vaccines shed they have been shedding, and then we're having cross species shedding all the same time. And I believe I had this huge battle 3 years ago with the vet over Jen getting, a rabies. Rabies are supposed to be good for the life of your pet.
One shot.
Yep, for the life of your pet. And we got in this huge fight, and they wouldn't give me the heartworm. It's the only thing that I use on her. So we got in this huge fight, and then they went behind my back and gave it to her anyway. And ever since then, she's had this problem with her hip joint, and she also has blood in her urine periodically. And she has a host of autoimmune system issues ever since within a week after that vaccine. And I'm speculating that they may be giving, the last couple of years, pets vaccines that would actually make people sick and give them viruses on top of the ones that I've already seen in the past. And I've seen people get, measles vaccinations and then give it to their dog. And their dog gets a sorted out weird type of human, or they get a human, measles virus. So, I mean, this stuff is real, and it shocks me at how not serious people are taking this whole situation. So I'll step back, and if Mona wants to talk, or somebody else, Mona wants to say something about the shedding. But, we're dealing with nanoparticles now, which that's a whole other different shed.
Well, there's like 4 different or 5 different, because I listened to a 3-hour video. I didn't know you were going to talk about it today on the this is not a real vaccination, on this jab, okay? And we're even the man who is all up in the air and loves vaccinations trying to stop, I don't remember his name, but he's trying to stop these jabs too, because he sees the damage and that they believe it's going to actually take out humanity. That's the creation of these inoculations, is to literally, I mean, there's one, I don't know if it's the Moderna one or not, but the protein in it will attack the placenta. So if any woman would get pregnant, that's it. The placenta is attacked who got the vaccination. One mother was nursing her baby after she got the inoculation, and the baby ended up with a full body rash. Talk about bring tears to your eyes.
Not only that, but the baby got a type of, thrombosis, thickening of the blood, and died.
Well, I'm sure it's happened to quite a few different infants.
But think about this. Once you have that vaccine, it's not like it's going to wait itself out of your system. So every time you get pregnant, it's going to attack the placenta.
Right.
It's not going to stop. Just because you got it, it did this right now, it's going to keep going, in your system for, like the duration. And then, did you guys see that video by Christine Northrup?
I don't know which one.
Well, she wrote Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom.
Okay.
She wrote a lot of books on menopause. She's just this brilliant doctor, and she was like, I've been following her since like the 80s. And she did a video and talked about these nanoparticles and how what they'll do once they get in your system is they'll, come together and build a machine.
Right.
Like a computer machine that overrides all of your systems.
Yep, they can build themselves just like the Morgellons and take themselves apart.
Yeah. So
Right.
you have a real transhuman problem.
Right.
Because now, you have a computer that's overriding all your systems in your system.
Well, I think that there's still this is like all experimenting, because they got the Morgellons to do what I have a friend who had like a little AI sort of plant or this weird insect thing grow out of her leg, and it was purple.
Yeah, like Morgellons.
Yeah. So, but Yeah, I doubt if they really know exactly what they're doing. It's kind of like the chemtrails, they've been messing around with the weather and manipulating it for a long, long time. But I'm wondering if you guys have heard anything about that, like how the shedding would happen, because the only people, I've heard people talk about shedding, but they're all treating it as if they're talking about it as if it's a virus. And it's not a regular vaccine, so it's not going to shed like that. But
through breath.
Well, but it does have a COVID virus in it, because people are getting a really harsh, man-made virus right after getting the vaccine. So there is viral shedding along with whatever else.
COVID virus, though. There is no COVID virus. The whole thing is made up.
Hold on,
Now there is, because they're giving it to people so they can start the second pandemic.
Yeah.
So they are in the vaccine giving people the COVID.
All right, now let me tell you what I can think about here, because this is something that I've definitely studied for every video. I'm on it. Viruses, we have them everywhere. They're part of the environment. We would not be alive if we didn't have some kind of virus. But it is not, like any kind of other thing, it tries to keep the host alive for as long as it can because it doesn't want to die. But there is no real virus. I agree with you. It's the toxins that come up after your body's immune system tries to take the whatever the environment is that's been making the body ill. It could be chemicals, it could be something that poison from the foods, it could be any kind of things that's going to create this virus.
Well, yeah, because you have all the viruses in your body. So
right.
What happens is when your body gets overloaded, it has to create a mucus chain in order to get over the toxic overload. So you could call it virus or a cold or a flu in order to get rid of the overload of what it's dealing with. But there are, man-made viruses, like Lyme disease, and we could call them parasitic infections. We can call them all kinds of different things, but they're being injected, or the insect is biting the person. Now, I've had a clinic, years ago with one of the most brilliant immunologists of all time that surrendered their license. They even created a medicine that cured just about every chromosomal disease that you had, cancer, herpes, whatever else, because it opened up the primordial immune system of the human being, and then the body could fight off anything. But, a lot of the viral agents and the viruses we have, she said, we're born with them. And we fit into 3 types. One is a metabolic viral, and it's in our tooth buds. So it transfers from our mother to us. And then the other one is a strep and staph, or, those of us who carry venereal disease that we don't actually give to other people, that are like dormant in our body. Like, for example, I'm that carrier. So when I was a kid, they tried to give me smallpox vaccinations 3 times and none of them ever took. It's because I have this natural viral predisposition towards anything that's, has a sore and a pussy sore and all of that kind of stuff. But I get really sick and I'm really susceptible to staph and strep infections. And then the other one is also the degenerative disease, the viral overloads that come from the tooth buds into your tooth buds when you're born. And so then you have the degenerative disease types, but those are all dormant viral agencies. And then you can cross viral loads depending on if your immune system is very good or not. So this is what people are, 3 categories of people. They're susceptible to different things. But I do believe that, in all vaccines, there's some kind of virus that they're giving you, whether it's a chicken pox, whether it's their variety, whether it's a chicken pox, a measles, a rubella, measles, and then, all the host of dog stuff that now is contagious to humans, and we're getting all of that because of, thank you very much to swine and Asian bird flu. So it's opened up us to being able to take in other, not normal and not natural viral agents into like our system. But I think, I think there's 3 types of this vaccine happening in tandem. You've got one that have weird viral agents in them. You have some that are autoimmune system, which they're attacking certain parts of the body, like a placenta. That would be like an autoimmune system like response, heightened autoimmune system response, and it could show up in so many different ways: food allergies, rashes, swelling. I have a client who almost everybody at her office has gotten the vaccine, and she hasn't. And she's been getting massive rashes on her legs and on the inside of her legs, and massive edema. She's swelling.
That's
yeah.
Terrible. That's exactly what I wanted to find out from people, if this kind of thing was happening. I have one patient who got both vaccinations. I can't remember which one it was that she got, but so she was coming in and her tongue was kind of purple, which indicates a heart problem, and she got a lot of edema. And then after the second one, she came in for 2 treatments after that for acupuncture, and she did really well after the first treatment. She felt so much better. She couldn't even walk. She hasn't been able to clean her house, and she just can't really cook. She can't do anything. She doesn't have her memory's like gone. And so she came in again last week, and her tongue was like magenta. It was purple, reddish, black.
It's blood.
And that's bad. Like when their tongue starts turning black, they could die.
Well, and it causes a lot of people have been dying from the blood clotting problems of the vaccines. Yeah. So it's actually clotting her blood. And so she's not moving any oxygen or water or anything like that. And that's where her memory loss and all that other stuff is, because her artery blood is actually thickening up and it's stuck. So nothing is getting out and nothing is getting in. And it's slowly suffocating her to death. So that's exactly what's happening.
I hate to say this, but why are you working on this kind of people?
Good question. I try not to touch her, even though, like, I'm sure your friend in the office didn't touch everybody in the office. But, I'm not going to treat her anymore. I just, in fact, she's in the hospital right now. But, it's like, I don't think we're going to get away from it. It's, you walk into a store, you grab the.
That's true.
It's everywhere. And that's what I'm wondering, because I had this kind of vision dream sort of happened maybe about 2 weeks ago, or 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And all of a sudden I felt like this in a big petri dish with all these little buzzy bubble kind of things. I felt like it was the AI virus or whatever it is that they want to take over our system. That it was just everywhere. We were in a petri dish, everybody.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
This is the thing is, like, I'm a huge Rudolf Steiner follower because I've gone to college, Rudolf Steiner College that used to be in Sacramento, studied the biodynamic programs and just lots of different programs they had. And he was, this brilliant PhD guy. His deal was in nutrition and nutrition density. He also started anthroposophy medicine, which deals with a lot of very interesting ways of approaching people and their health and medicine. But looking over all of the stuff that he didn't really have like one piece of work that talked about just vaccines. He had different pieces of work that would have this whole vaccine information that would be in it. And he was one of the most probably one of the most amazing people that ever, tapped into the Akasha records. But because he was kind of egoless, he asked questions and he studied things in the Akasha records that no other people study, because everybody that goes in there, it's all about me. They're never really looking at the bulk of the information, the collective information. And so he said, over 100 years ago, he wrote 300 books. He gave 4,000 lectures. A lot of his work is like nutrition. He was retraining doctors back then, as nutritionalists as well. And he said, like, what was coming down the pike, in the Akashic records was that we were going to have a major, major problem. He was even more maybe worried, but he had an intensity towards, technology. He really felt like technology was going to be a serious problem in the near future. And that also this vaccine stuff, he talked about how these vaccines are going to show up that will make you soulless. Like you won't actually be able to be a human and develop as a human, because it will take away your soul and your ability to have, consciousness. And he talked heavily about this human bottlenecking that will be coming.
Right.
So, but he also was really proactive about the people who ended up staying and biodynamic remedies so that we can start restoring the soil, because he said along with this bottlenecking also we're going to be finding out that all the soil is bad worldwide and there isn't going to be able to grow anything. And I'm watching in the Reno area, like all the trees dying, all of them. So the thing is like we're reaching, a critical mass on all level, and I'm not giving up hope. I'm here, and I don't think I would be into the long game if I hadn't studied a lot of Steiner's work. I mean, it's not like I'm hopium, but I know what my place is. I know how to use these biodynamic formulas to regenerate soil and to grow food and start patches of communities, because he said we're going to be here. We still have 2 more epochs. I mean, the sixth epoch doesn't even start till 3572. So we're still waiting through. And this is part of, he said, our human development. It's sad that the Dark Brotherhood murdered him, and the Dark Brotherhood is control of our planet. But this is about us being able to wake up as an individual. And also he said that it wasn't until 1410 that the development of the brain and being able to think and critically think didn't start. So this whole thinking process and us being able to actually think and problem solve is part of us reaching freedom potential. So that's the way I look at it, is like I try to like throw it back on myself and say, like I'm not getting involved in all that stuff. I'm not going to be getting a vaccine. I'm not going to be doing any of the stuff. But I am going to grow food. I am going to focus in on soil restoration. I am going to continue to do a lot of the work that I'm doing. I'm going to continue to develop my own self as far as I can develop it. Because, once this next epoch hits and we bounce back and we start to have more populations, then he said in the 6th epoch, we will start to actually work together with all these individualized systems of belief, and we will actually create the real human. We'll develop into this real human potential. So
how long is an epoch?
A long time. This epoch we're in, the 5th post-Atlantic epoch, started in 1410 and will go to 3572. And this is the place, this is the area where we do the bottlenecking.
Yeah, well, it definitely is that, because it is the Earth's body, mind, and spirit that is being overrun by lies, deceit, sacrifice, and murder.
Right, but the way he looked at it was like, it has to also do with our spiritual evolution. Because if we can't wake up and we can't critically think and we can't see these things, because he was a heavy believer in reincarnation, that you would come back. But each time, you develop yourself more and more. So you just try to develop yourself as much as you can so that when you do come back, at least you have more development.
Yeah.
Some people literally believe that the reincarnation is part of a system by the archons and that it's a lie.
Well, that one is. But there's also this one that he talks about, that you come in not as frequent. So there is this natural reincarnation that Steiner talks about, but you may only come in once, probably during an epoch. And then so you have to make sure that your impact or your development or however that's going to be. But it's really interesting because not that, like I said, it's given me hope or whatever else, but it's given me like a focus on what to focus in on until I can't, focus in on that anymore. And I'm heavily, out there, totally anti-vaccination at this point in time, anti-nasal swab. I know so many, I've got like 3 people right now that have herniated brains. I mean, have tears in the brain that they can't fix because there's no way that they can go into that part of the head to fix them.
All right. Have you seen the videos where the Morgellons is actually, and they're talking about putting the CV on the stick to do the test? It doesn't have to go that far up into the brain. It doesn't. That's just it. It is a planned part of the annihilation. But when you get the masks, that they have found that if you add a little heat and a little moisture by breathing, then the fibers come alive and start growing in the mask, that there's now Morgellons in the face masks.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all they're nano parasites. So it's all part of the whole nano, system. But I do believe that, it's going to come just, from stuff that I've looked at and stuff that I've studied, that it is going to come to a screeching halt.
You got to explain that further, because there's so many pivotal points here. What is going to come to a halt? Humanity, life as we know it.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're in the massive bottlenecking phase that Steiner talked about now. We have been, because the stuff that he was talking about over 100 years ago, we're in the thick of it. We're still participating in it. We haven't learned anything over the last, if you read his books, you could put them in this time frame right now, because
yes, I have read his book.
There's no difference. But the thing is that there are less countries participating. There are less, and so there's going to be some places, like even Steiner said, there's going to be some places that are going to be better to live and some places that are going to be worse to live.
Right.
I'm kind of leaning towards right now the U.S. is not such, like I have friends in other countries who are like, get out while you can. I'm like, I think it's too late. I mean, they're holding people hostage in Canada. Like, you get off the plane and you're not a Canadian, or you are a Canadian, and they hold you hostage in these, hotel rooms, and they test you, and then they give you the vaccine, and like all kinds of crazy stuff that they're doing to you against your will. But I think that there's just going to be a lot of, I mean, look at what Putin said. Putin said, like before, Trump got in office, Putin was talking about how he wants to turn Russia into the most organic food production country in the world, because he realizes Russia's going to be screwed if he allows what happened to Americans to happen there. That the eating the bad food. I mean, he's even been known to have shot down several chemtrail planes too, as well. So, yeah. So, I mean, the thing is like they 5 years ago were the top ancient wheat growers, organic growers in the world. And then he said in the next 5 years, he's going to get off all fossil fuel power. And also they'll be the #1 organic food producer in the world. So he said publicly, I do not want Russians to become Americans, because there is something wrong with their whole system, with the vaccinations, with, the food, with, the chemical spraying, and, all of this kind of stuff. So, Finland just came out and now has said COVID and all this stuff is a lie, so there's no lockdown anymore. They're throwing, the CDC out. I mean, in a lot of countries, the plan, their plan isn't working anymore. These countries are not accepting, being part of these systems. So, however that's going to play out in the U.S., I have no idea. I think all we can do is hold our ground, hide out if we have to, and just educate people the best that we can. But what was really interesting, we should have Mitzi talk about, was the smell of the nanoparticle vaccine smell that contaminated everybody in that lodge. And you want to tell us about the smell of it, because you knew that it was not a normal smell.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if it had to do with that. But I did actually. There was somebody who I think got vaccinated and walked into my house, and I smelled a really weird smell then, and it was. It smelled kind of like a lab, like I don't know, like medical waste. I've smelled stuff like that from chemtrails before. Like I walk outside and go, oh my God, there's like medical waste being sprayed on it. Have you had that, Mona? Do you just?
Yeah, sometimes it's even sweet, like some kind of cologne.
Yeah, it's disgusting, like they're trying to mask it, but yeah.
They've been doing it real bad here for 2 days, so I'm wondering if we got more weather coming. We just went through our second freeze, so everything that was budding got froze out.
Yeah, so that's been their thing for a while. They do that. It's called ice nucleation. But they try to get things to bud out early, which they shouldn't be budding here this early, and then they freeze it. But what I've done for that is, and I think it's kind of helped in the past, where I get wheelbarrows, like in my yard. I'll fill up wheelbarrows with water and put them underneath the trees, and also 5-gallon buckets, just to help and make sure, if the ground is watered, then it won't freeze so hard. But I think that kind of helps to keep the temperature a little bit higher, so it doesn't freeze so hard. I'm not sure, but I wanted to bring up something, if I could. I'd like to just tell a little story about when I think I probably got whatever it is that they're trying to spread a long time ago, in January, February of 2020, so last year, right at the beginning, and because I got really sick, and I don't normally get sick that bad, and it wouldn't go away for about 5 days. Other people were getting sick for like 6 weeks, and then they'd get better and then get worse again. So that's what happened. I got sick for about 5 days, and then I got better, and then it came back. And both times I had like a vision, or it was like kind of, things happened to me a lot between sleep and waking. Like I'm kind of laying there in bed and I'm halfway asleep, half awake. And this thing happened at that time, both times. I was sitting on the ground somewhere, and there was 2 of my ancestors were with me, and they were sitting kind of behind me, and they were putting their hands on my kidneys, like on my back, my low back. And they said, yes, this is an AI virus, but you have no need to take it in. You have no need to let this take root in you. And so they were healing me by putting their hands on my kidneys. And I got better after that. And then the same thing happened the second round when I got sick again. The same thing happened where they came and put their hands on my kidneys like that. And then I got better. So, and I actually feel really strong. I feel really good. And they chemtrail the heck out of this place too, on the West Coast. And, but I feel like it's not going to take me down, but also I have to draw lines, I have to draw really clear boundaries with people. And Mona, you asked, why am I treating those people? And, after the second time I treated her, she's been a long time patient of mine, like years and years.
Right.
But so it was kind of hard to tell her no.
I get that. And I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty or anything. I
was like, I'm not treating anybody. They're not walking in my office, and then I let them come in. But I don't know what's going on with her. They want to do these procedures. What does that mean? To get the water out of her legs. It's like, just give her herbs. But it's her decision, because she's the one. She knows that the natural medicine works. Because I have gotten her off of 14. When she first came to me, she was like, literally said she wanted to die. She wanted to kill herself. And I said, if you say that one more time, I'm a mandated reporter. I have to report you. I'm going to report you. And she never did. But she got better, and I got her off of all of those 14 different medications, including those shots in your eyes that diabetics get. It's disgusting. And then but she just kind of slipped back, and now she went for the vaccine, and she knew I talked to her many times about not getting it, and she did it anyway. But yeah, I was said to myself, I don't want to start attracting a bunch of people that are having reactions from these shots, and then want me to come and fix them. I really don't want to get into that.
No,
well, you think about this. It's like, I'm concerned because, what if I treat, people are under, my treatment, and they have, like a serious reaction from this vaccine 6 months down the road. Because that's one thing that Christine Northrup said, is that some of the people will have anaphylactic shock right away and probably will not make it, or autoimmune system problems or whatever else, or Bell's palsy, cerebral palsy, some of these Parkinson looking symptoms. But she said the big problem is going to be, in 18 to 24 months, because she said because of a lot of the stuff that they're putting in that they're calling the Lucifer is to expire you. So they're creating like a perfect storm, so that all you need is that one thing to set you off, and then you die. And I'm just thinking, I think a lot about, I can't help people who are taking this vaccine, but like, I don't want to be caught in the crossfires with somebody under my care that is going to die from this vaccine, and then I get blamed. So I think a lot about that too.
Well, that's where we have to, because basically the Native elders I hang out with, they're all just like, we are in a war. They've been saying this for a long time. This is a war. It's a spiritual war that we're in, and we need to protect ourselves. We need to smudge and do all kinds of stuff to to pray for each other, pray for ourselves, and, our families and stuff, each other's families. And because, like, you were saying, Rudolf Steiner says that there are some people who are going to make it through. And, I kind of know a bunch of people that I think are going to make it through. But it's just, the fact that all of these people who I kind of thought were intelligent people have just run with their arms open to get these shots. It's just outrageous.
Well, and then they don't even understand the science either, because they're like, okay, now you need to go in. It's like, for what?
And these are
if you got the vaccine, then you're protected, right? So you don't really need me to get a vaccine
too that I'm talking about. They're actually scientists, but they're not looking at the science.
Yes, we have fallen under some kind of stupid spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not us personally, but the consciousness, the TV. It's all subliminal information off the TV. But then I've known people who don't watch TV who have had this issue, who have completely turned hightail and gone to the medical society to think that they're going to be saved from this. When I saw mold growing on their faces from wearing masks. I mean, come on. And here I'm not their friend because I won't wear a mask, and I'm not voting for who.
Well,
you think I should vote for?
Yeah, I'm up in Ashland, Oregon right now, and this place is insane. It's totally crazy. And but today I walked into a couple of stores and didn't put a mask on. I kind of forgot, and nobody said anything. And one of the stores I go to is this thrift store. It's kind of a high-end thrift store, so I get find nice stuff there. But and nobody said a thing, and they even looked at me and everything. And before they were like, you have to leave. You can't come in here. But so I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know what's going on here.
Congratulations. That is cool. I mean, my landlord just finally figured out wearing the mask makes him not able to breathe, because he has put on a mask since the beginning, and he's finally realizing that that's what's creating what's happening to him physically. He won't take the shot though, and we're pretty close knit up here.
Hmm.
5 people up here. Now, the woman across the hallway got her shot. She was sick and down for the count because she's a nurse practitioner kind of person.
Oh.
And she's got a daughter that lives with her in the same bed and everything. I'm amazed, though the daughter doesn't even come out of the bedroom.
Wow.
You know that she's sick or not. Well, they're supposed to go away for a week today, I hope. But otherwise, yeah, I've had to, but we don't share the same bathroom. See, now that's where I would have a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't share the same refrigerator. But he shares the same refrigerator with her. And he hasn't thought about it until recently about, you know, what's going on and how it could be affecting him. Does that make sense? The people are literally, I mean, I have to tell people when they come home, take your mask off. There's no sense in you having the mask on. Why do you still have that on? So, but I don't.
Why do they have it on in the house? That's weird.
Well, because you don't think about it. Once you get accustomed to having it on for 8 hours during the day, do you even think about it?
Oh, God.
I mean, mentality is going down the same with consciousness. It's getting
so many people driving with it on.
Right. We have bus
drivers here
we have bus drivers driving over these hairy mountain passes with masks on.
Yeah, you get afraid that they're going to pass out from not getting enough oxygen. Why would you even ride the bus?
I know. Exactly. Yep.
Well, because that's what it is. We are under an annihilation, and it will be our spirits that keep us strong enough to assume whatever position we're here to hold.
Yeah, there was a native elder. He used to say, even this guy, his name was Mike Bastine. He's Algonquin from around Buffalo, I think. But he used to say, you know, even because our whole job here is to help to transform all of this craziness, and each of us has a different role in that transformation. And so even if we're at ground zero, when the big thing happens, whatever, which we're all on ground zero, is to just stand in your own uniqueness and know what it is that you're transforming.
Well, and then we're okay to die because we've done nothing to infringe upon harming the environment and others. See, that's also the other thing, is that no fear. And that's what's gotten everybody into this thing. They're afraid to die when they don't even know how to live. I mean,
that's exactly like, you know, that they don't even know what, you know, living a life is, and that, you know, they're terrified to die or
I know, right?
To get
when they're killing themselves from this shit.
Yeah, no, it's pretty mind blowing actually, and that's why I just try to, like, you know, keep studying, you know, keep taking courses, keep upgrading myself, you know, keep getting out there and trying to grow food, keep trying to educate people, and I try to focus in on that because
Bridgette, I had a bad thing happen.
What?
I had just planted over 6.
We have about 2 minutes.
I know, but it's a cute story anyway. You know my pool garden, right? Well, I planted 3 Brussels sprouts and 3 cabbages, or was it 4? It was 4 and 4. And I came out and looked at them today. Something came in along and ate them.
Aww.
I know, and it's up off the ground at least 8 inches, etc. So I'm thinking, I know I have either a goat next door or a lamb, because I hear it, you know what I mean? And so I wondered, did he come down and eat my cabbages?
Oh, dang, you got to put a cage around it or something.
I'm going to have to put a whole cage around my whole garden if this is going to happen.
Right, yeah.
And I'm trying to keep them off the ground from the bunnies, you know?
Yep. Yeah, we have, everybody here has fences around their gardens because we've got deers. They can jump 6 feet. So everybody's got to have 6 foot.
To put a double fencing
for
a deer, because they, you know, can't jump like a foot or a human-sized distance between the fencing when you're in that kind of area. But I have deer here too. Maybe it was a deer. I also have bears here. Well, we had cows walking through the yard one day.
Ah, that's good.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh gosh.
All right, we're going to have a break coming on in, so I'll just kind of throw this out there while we're waiting. So you're listening to Carrying Stones and Digging Holes to Cultivate Consciousness with Kelsey Sweet, Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff, and we have Mona Radler on, and we also have Mitzi, and both of them also have shows on Revolution Radio, and we should be hitting the promo now. Yep, you can go to our website, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. We have so many different ways you can donate on our website. Please look at our shop. We've got all kinds of shirts and tea and coffee cups and whatever else. You can find something that will work for you. And in some cases, you could get your favorite host's emblem on some of the stuff as well. So please help us keep the lights on. Everything that everyone does here, we do it all for free. We volunteer our time, and even our management. Some of them work, 40-hour-a-week other jobs, and still help out with all the stuff that needs to be taken care of. So please, 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 we just ask that you keep the lights on. We're last, uncorporatized media and First Amendment radio out there. So keep us going strong. All right. So, hey, let me check and see who's with us still. Oh, everybody's still with us. So I wanted to throw this out there just real quick. Oh, and you're listening to the second hour of Digging Holes and Carrying Stones and Digging Holes to Cultivate Consciousness with Kelsey Sweet and Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff. So I found this out the other day. Make sure my mic is on. That AstraZeneca, when you split it up and you look at it in Hindu, means supernatural weapon that kills.
Whoa.
So it's actually a sentence. Yeah.
These big pharmaceutical corporations is what's destroying everything. Dell, Bayer, all of it.
Well, and they're not hiding it. So I was just going to read what it says here. Just Astra, the first part of AstraZeneca. It says, in Hinduism, an Astra was a supernatural weapon presided over by a specific deity and imbued with spiritual and occult powers that caused its effect or impact. Later, the word came to denote any weapon which was used by releasing it from one's hand, an arrow, as opposed to being used while held like a sword.
Whoa.
Yeah. Kind of scary, isn't it? I mean, this is the thing is they're not lying to us. They're not, they're telling us the truth. It's just I don't think that, like Steiner talks about, like not all of us have the ability to think because we've just started working on that, as far as the human development and the capability to think has only been in the epoch we're in, started in 1410. So I'm not really sure that most people have the capacity. There's still some of us are just faster at developing, the next ability. Right now it's the brain and being able to think that he said that will bring us into freedom. This is what will, overall create the freedom that we're seeking. But yeah, so anybody have anything to say? I'm going to look that up really quick.
But if they're taking away and inhibiting the idea that they can now control the soul and basically control us through the nanobot situations and that, then...
But they've been, think about this. They've been practicing medicine on us for a while. I mean, they've been using drugs, painkiller drugs, for quite a while, and also antidepressant type stuff. that blocks the neurotransmitters in the brain. So once this happens and you're taking a lot of these types of drugs, you no longer have a relationship with your brain. Your body your brain doesn't communicate with your body anymore. And if your brain can't communicate with your body, you don't regenerate. So once these neuron transmitters are blocked, you're not really living anyway, and you're deteriorating because your brain can't send a signal down to your liver to say, hey, it's 6 months time, let's regenerate, because you're taking neurotransmitter blockers. And so the brain can't even send a signal out to the body to see what kind of shape it's in. It's totally cut off. So, I mean, they've been experimenting with this kind of stuff, for a while.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I think that the process of dumbing people down for sure has been going on for a long time, and this just seems like it's like the cap, like the headstone or something, in the whole thing.
Right.
Because, I mean, these are the people that I know that have gone for that vaccine are like, people who, well, they all probably watch TV, though. That's probably the main thing. I bet it would be interesting to find out, like, what's the common denominator, like, if everybody watches TV, or the people that get
yeah, but no, because I know 2 people who don't have TVs and they got the jab, but they also voted for Joe Biden.
Well, do they listen to NPR?
Honey, she was the one who found me at Revolution Radio. That's the whole thing that got me the most, is that she was a radical, and all the thing just completely changed.
Yeah.
I mean, all over this COVID thing. And she was watching. See, there's just as much on alternative media that is lies and deceit and BS. And we can't put out the real information because they censor us. And, I mean, there's just been so much of a battle going on trying to balance out the yays and nays. People just don't want to take the time to look any further than being told whichever way they're picking it up in their heads that they're being told. You know what I mean?
Well,
fall for it.
Yeah, I mean, because people like us, like, what makes us so different that we don't just assume that even people on alternative media are telling the truth, like, because we have capability of.
Missy, are you Native American?
Yeah, I'm part Native American.
Okay, and so is Bridgette, and so am I. I don't know about Kelsey.
Well, I'm not officially Native American. I have Siberian shaman ancestry, so it's a little bit different. I get yelled at by Native people because I'm not Native. I'm not native to this continent. How about that?
Well, but
I follow.
You still get what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're like Native Earth people. That's. Yeah.
I'm Blackfoot on my dad's side.
There you go. See? I'm Iroquois and Irish. So.
I'm Purépecha from Mexico. That's Purépecha are the people down in Mexico who have kicked out all the politicians and the drug lords and the police and everybody out of Michoacan, the state in Mexico. And now they're just patrolling it. They just took their arms up and they're taking turns patrolling the area. They got rid of all of the drug trafficking. The crime rate is like next to nothing. Wow. And so that's my people.
Sweet.
Yeah. But I have a really good verse from Rudolf Steiner that I would like to read. Is that okay, Bridgette?
Yeah, I love Steiner.
Okay, so maybe I'll just read it right now. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, let her rip.
So I think it's called A Verse for These Times, but so it's interesting because this was written in the 40s, but it's totally apropos for now. We must eradicate from the soul all fear and terror of what comes to man out of the future. We must acquire serenity in all feelings and all sensations about the future. We must look forward with absolute equanimity to everything that may come. And we must think only that whatever comes is given to us by a world direction full of wisdom. It is part of what we must learn in this age, namely to live out of pure trust without any security in existence. Trust in the ever-present help of the spiritual world. Truly, nothing else will do if our courage is not to fail us. Rudolf Steiner. So, it's interesting because we are all getting this total opportunity to do exactly what he's talking about, because we have no security in existence right now. There's like basically nothing to stand on. So, I think that all of our native blood in us from this planet Earth, being part of the human race, is I think this is what's going to carry us through, because those people. So the viruses, when stuff first comes out, I always go to. I used to go to Dick Gregory's website and listen to his YouTubes, but he died. But I go to Dr. Daniels, Jennifer Daniels. She lives down in Panama now, I think it is. She's really good. She came out with all of this stuff at the very beginning. The whole thing about the Cox postulates and not finding the virus. There's no virus. There's no epidemic. But she took off. She's out of the country. She got kicked out of the country. But I just feel like those of us that are going to make it are going to be the ones that have some kind of spiritual foundation, really. That we're not letting them take hold of our minds and push us into that fear, So, because in Chinese medicine, the mind is held in the blood. And so when they contaminate the blood like that by injecting, DNA from other species and children and all the stuff that they're putting in there, it's a direct attack on our blood. So it's almost the same as if they had tanks and guns, but they don't. This is the way they're doing it now. But without the help of the spiritual world, I don't think anything's possible here with this one. Yeah.
So this is this kind of just a paragraph that kind of talks about the fifth epoch from Steiner going into the sixth. It says occult research, and this was probably written, 1911, right?
Wow.
So occult research is able to indicate the characteristics trend of human evolution in each of these post-Atlantean epochs of civilization, including the fifth, which we're in, sixth, and seventh. The essential characteristics of our present fifth epoch is the development of intellect, of reason. The main characteristic of the sixth epoch will be that very definite feelings regarding what is moral and what is immoral will arise in the souls of men. Delicate feelings of sympathy will arouse by compassion, kindly deeds and feelings, antipathy, and by malicious actions. Nobody living at the present time can have the faintest concept of the intensity of these feelings. So we have to go through this thinking period, right? This intellectual developmental period to free ourselves in order to move as the human being. The human develops into this very, tender feeling, psychic, being, which will start to arise in the sixth epoch. So we're making our way to being, light beings, going into a physical form and then slowly moving our way to this, high vibrational being by the end of the seventh epoch.
Oh, you know what? When you were talking, something just popped in my head. I remembered one of my nieces, little baby. They live in Germany, and she had that baby fully vaccinated in Germany. They give a lot of vaccinations, and I don't think none of them have taken this one, and they're not going to. But the girl started, she's probably a year and a half old or something, and she started getting these mongoloid, her facial features started looking a little bit mongoloid, like the high brow, and just her look was a little bit like Down's a little bit. She didn't have Down syndrome, but it was so interesting because she went, you talk about the spiritual realm, because babies are so much more connected. And so they told me that she would go into her drawer and she would pull this necklace out that my husband had given her, a bloodstone. And that's she would always go in there every day. She went in there. She was always playing with it. She'd put it on. She'd play around with it, with this little bloodstone. And it turns out, I looked it up when they told us that. I looked it up, and I noticed that when that same day we were Skyping with them, that she looked a lot brighter. Her face was just more cheery, and her eyes were bright, and she looked more attentive and stuff. And I looked it up, and that bloodstone pulls toxins out of the blood. So I thought that was very fascinating, that this little girl, that just going along with her non-rational mind, got totally gravitated towards this stone that is very, very helpful for cleaning the blood up in a very powerful way. Bloodstone's a really powerful stone medicine.
Well, yeah, but on top of it too, Steiner talked a lot about the mineral kingdom.
Yeah.
Just so people know, and that it's a reflective consciousness. So if the person's wearing the stone has a very innocent reflective consciousness, the stones and the water and all of these things are going to reflect that goodness back on to the being.
Yeah.
If you're not so good, you're, probably your reflection with the stone or the water or whatever else is not going to be as strong.
Uh-huh.
But that's what I think a lot about, like reading a lot of Steiner's work and then dealing with the whole vaccine thing in children anyway, and how many children have autism. And, if you think about his work talking about the mineral kingdom having a reflective consciousness, whatever we put on it, what we send towards it, that's what it reflects back to us, right? So that goes into, a vaccine into somebody's brain. So now they're in a lower consciousness. They're in a mineral kingdom consciousness, because those metals, all the different things that they're putting in there that have to do with the mineral kingdom, that's reflecting this consciousness. And then Steiner talks about the animal kingdom and about how the animal kingdom lives in this dreaming kind of world. And at one point in time, we lived in that dreaming consciousness. But, as we're developing, as humans, we've been moving out of that into a higher functioning consciousness. So he talks about animal consciousness as a dreaming consciousness, that they don't really know that they're alive. They take in their breath, they're in the present moment, and then they take a breath, and then they, move into a different consciousness, kind of when they die. So you think about like all these animal parts, kidney, monkey kidneys and chicken embryos and all this other animal parts that they're also putting into this vaccine. And you can see how those vaccines can hold a person in a lower consciousness that is reflective, mineral kingdom, and also a dream state of the animal kingdom, and that it's really difficult for them to actually emerge into like a human consciousness, because they have all this stuff that's already has a consciousness that's injected into them. And so I think a lot about that, about just by the vaccine of all the parts in it, that they're lowering the conscious state. Because you should never put animal parts into a bloodstream. And that's the other thing that people don't really understand about vaccines is if it was like a polio vaccine or whatever, I'll say like a live vaccine that they had you swallow, right, then your digestive situation, your liver and your thyroid would filter out any viral agents. It would filter out any mold. It would filter out any fungus.
Yeah.
And so then your liver, your digestive tract would get it, and your liver would, clean up the rest of it before any of it, went to areas that it's not supposed to go. But because you inject it right into the bloodstream, it goes right into the brain. Right into the brain. It passes the brain membrane, and there's nothing in your system that can do its job to detour it, to detour it and navigate it out as waste. You can't do that. Your body can't do it once it's injected in.
Well,
It's very chimeric.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, it's just very chimeric. You just turn people into like the chimeric consciousness, I suppose. A lot of overlapping and they're influencing vibrations on one's vibrations. Very confusing. It must be very confusing to a perception of reality. Over.
Well, the other thing too is that people don't want to talk about is that yeah, I mean, just the whole
it gets
vaccine
bewildering.
thing.
It does, because we're watching sanity just basically like turn into deer's eyes in the headlights, and they'd rather fight about it than look and to see what can be actually remedied to help avert these issues. It should be it should be easier than this. It really should. But it's
I gotta say that I'm kind of heartened to see that there's actually a lot of people really questioning it now, at least where I'm at, and the people probably, the population that would come see me anyway are more open-minded. But for the most part, most people, there's only been 2 people that have come in to see me, and those are old patients. I mean, they've been coming in a long time. But none of the other people have gotten the vaccination or the shot.
Good.
So that's kind of a good sign that people are starting to at least question, I mean, whether they go home and they have the TV, because it's like the TV on all the time is just as bad as getting this shot in your blood, because the emotions, I know what I was going to say about Jennifer Daniels. She explained how the virus, the so-called COVID virus, looks exactly like what they call exosomes, and those exosomes actually get created in the body. It's the process of the body sequestering the chemical that gets released by fear in people, and it turns into this little molecule, and because the body will encapsulate stuff that's not good for it. So when the person's in fear, the body naturally goes through and it encapsulates the toxins that are released from that fear and running through the body, and it encapsulates it, and it looks exactly like what the computer draw-ups of what a COVID virus looks like, with those little spikes and stuff. But it's not a virus, and it is, scientists they can't even tell the difference between what they think is a COVID virus or and what is this exosome. So it's basically the same thing. And I think that even, it could even extend it out to maybe fears that you don't know about, like if people are being exposed to a lot of EMFs, and also with this 5G thing, that the body is still going to be in fear if it's getting attacked by something that it doesn't know about, because you can't smell it, you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't hear it, you can't feel it, and yet we're being attacked with that. And so I kind of postulated that would still be a fear on a body level, and that this is that process of sequestering the chemicals from that.
Well, another thing too is like people, just a couple things. The bones have been recategorized in Europe in medicine. They're no longer on their own anymore. They're in the endocrine system, because some research and that they did in Europe indicated that bones when we're under high stress or fear, that bones release a hormone called like calcium or something like that, calicin. And it's a hormone. And actually, there's kind of, and so they've actually put the bones now into the endocrine system. So any of that fear stuff and chemical makeup, hormone, I mean, it would be a hormone, would come from the endocrine system, which is the system that gets damaged the most by, vaccines. And the other thing too is like the aluminium, which is, similar to the stuff that they put in your teeth, that reacts the worst with microwave radiation. I mean, put some aluminum into a microwave and see what happens. And so this is what we're dealing with Wi-Fi and 5G as a bioweapon. And so it actually stimulates the aluminium in the system in a way that it would be similar to a microwave oven. After you get these vaccines, especially the last one that has, the really high levels of aluminium in it. So that would be like microwaving you, exciting those metals inside your system with any Wi-Fi, 5G, any of that kind of microwave radiation. So it would cause immediate oxidation of cells, which the collapse of water and all this other stuff would happen in there, and also would make them start to coagulate, like your patient had with the blood clotting, with the dark tongue.
Yeah.
So that's from the 5G and the Wi-Fi with the vaccine, because it's kind of like cooking her in a way from the inside out and thickening the blood, and then you'll just have a stroke or you'll just stop breathing. You won't have enough oxygen in there. And that's what was happening with all the testing. So the places where they had like the supposed worst COVID cases were in places where they had 5G operating, right? New York and some of these other places. And so what would happen is these people that supposedly were getting this COVID, and they were trying to intubate them, in the hospital, which, is breathing for them, they found that they would die most of the time because they couldn't get their body to actually absorb the oxygen, because the oxygen had been so removed and depleted from this interaction of the 5G in people's bodies, direct contact of it, that it actually caused blood thickening and coagulation, so the cells couldn't actually uptake oxygen anymore. So by the time they were turning purple and they were going to the hospital, they were unsavable because the body, they couldn't get the oxygen back into the cells.
Yeah, good old suffocation.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. By 5G. 5G suffocation.
Well, don't you think the nanos could do it as well?
Well, I think the nanos are like, making a computer system to override. And I think that they're, okay, so this is kind of like, this is going to be crazy thinking, because this is stuff I think about. But what if they were making a lot of these vaccines to target certain also types of people who are genetically more prone to certain things? Like I kind of was thinking, what if they're targeting the Abels, right? So there's supposedly, this whole thing about bloodlines and the Cains and the Abels, and the Cains have always been reptilian and murderous, humanoids. And then you have the anals, sorry, you have the Abels who are, loving, caring, compassionate, human beings. And what if the vaccine is going after the genetics of the Abels, that's been around since the beginning of time and doesn't really bother the more reptilian folk? And it's interesting because I think Lady Horse put up an article a week ago that talked about how humans, they now believe through all the scientific research that we either had the ability to have venom and venomous glands in our bodies, or that it might be something that kind of plays out into the future, which then, makes us a little less human and makes some of us a little more reptilian than we would like to be, right? So then it goes back to a lot of this Anunnaki stuff and this very reptilian, genetics that, that many of us probably, have to some extent. And then I think about what if, the vaccine is, also just targeting certain types of the population, maybe like the Nazis and, some of these people that have these programs to get rid of, more of, brown cultures, cultures that are older than the white culture, because brown cultures, we know that they evolved here because they have skin that blocks out sunlight.
Right.
White people were burned by the sun. We get radiation burns, so we did not evolve here.
Yeah, but the sun is what helps and what they prescribed in the beginning: vitamin C, sunshine, and zinc.
Yep. But I mean, think about it. If people weren't nutritionally depleted, they would have that stuff in their diet, and this wouldn't have affected anybody in the first place.
Well, it hasn't really affected anybody anyway, because all the tests have been swindled.
Yeah, no, the tests have been super swindled, and even the blood has been swindled. So I have a couple patients that believed that they didn't go and get tested to find out if they had COVID. They didn't want to go through that whole testing. I told them not to. I said, you want brain damage? Then don't go do it. Because a lot of these people they're hiring, to do this testing are not actual professionals who actually have had real long-term training. In Nevada, we didn't have enough people to give out the vaccine, so they're just training anybody. And then they set up these tents, and so where they're giving people all these vaccines are not even at the medical hospitals. They're not at doctors' offices. So there is no legal recourse. It's a drive-through tent with people who are not doctors.
Right.
And not physicians' assistants. They're not people who carry malpractice insurance, right? There is no recourse for you if you go through those stations, So, so I mean, just, so anyway, I think about a lot of this kind of stuff, like, what is all this really targeting? Who is it really targeting? I mean, obviously, when you have a whole, country like the U.S. where, 99.9% of the population is deficient in magnesium, deficient in B vitamins, deficient in vitamin C, deficient in essential fatty acids that actually makes your brain work, and deficient in almost every possible thing. And then we love Monsanto's crops. And, most of us that understand a lot of this stuff have moved away from a lot of those products, but, we're still dealing with a population that is eating food that isn't actually food.
Right.
And has no, so it's easy, for them to kill you off. I mean, it's not really going to be that hard because you're already half dead anyway.
Well,
it does seem that way. Go ahead, hon.
Mm-hmm. I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking about the trees and how they're cutting down massive amounts of trees. When I was in Georgia, I used to like next to the freeways, there was really big forests, like between the freeway and the towns, like lots and lots and lots of trees. Well, the last time I was there, they were cutting them all down, all of them, like this huge expanse of freeway. They went in and just clear cut all of these trees everywhere. And the same thing's happening here in Northern California. I mean, they're just going to town with all this chemtrailing. They make it so that there's no weather. We used to, the loggers used to have to stop from like October to, May, stop because it was too dangerous, too muddy, and there was snowpack and stuff. Now they don't have to stop at all. And they're just like constantly bringing trees out of the mountains here. And like around next to on the highway between where I live and where I work. Every week during the week, every day there's roadblocks because they're taking out trees next to the roads. I think that's the next thing. But one of the elders, I remember saying that the Native American elders, he used to say that they're trying to turn the earth into a habitat that reptiles like. So hot.
No, that's exactly it. I had a client who, and so this is going to be far out there for some people, but I had a client who was high up in an international research company. He was the chief financial officer. He was, looked fairly human, but he had some characteristics and did a little bit of shape-shifting too, but he was, a reptilian hybrid. And he was a really interesting guy. And we got along really, really well. And that's the last time that I saw him, that I worked on him in 2010, I guess, 2011. That's what he did. We sat down and we had a really long conversation about that a lot of the reptoids, a lot of the humanoidy reptoids, they've been here longer, they've been here just as long in some cases and longer in this world, and that they've destroyed a lot of other planets that were alkaline planets. And that's exactly what he said. He said, this is an alkaline planet. Unfortunately, humans need, alkalinity to thrive, all mammals and humans. And when, we take over places, we have to make it very acidy. So we like the chemicals in the air. We like all the fluoride and the chlorine and all this stuff in the water. We like having a very hot planet that may not have, much plant life. Unfortunately, he said, in some cases, we're killing our food supplies because, humans and mammals fit into some of their food supply. And, in the process of them, destroying this planet. But he said this isn't the first one that they've destroyed. And I know that's a little far out there for people, but these are people that I've dealt with. And, and these are not people. These are not people that are wacko. These are perfectly normal people who have high-ranking positions and big educations.
Netflix had a series on called Fringe, and that was exactly what it was all about.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was all about. The crazy mad scientist guy in it, I always think about Richard Allen Miller because he's a friend of mine, and so I go visit Richard, and he's a mad hatter, just like the guy in the, in the Fringe.
Right. You haven't talked to Richard in a while.
Well, and Richard said in 2015, I think when I first started doing online, I had an online TV show. He came on, and he said at that time we were running a -4 oxygen on the planet because, of all the trees and everything that were dying. And plus, we're cutting down a lot of forests so that they can grow food for Americans in South America.
Yeah, so but it's not just that. They're doing it on the highways because of the person or the non-drivable vehicles.
Yeah, well, that too.
Whatever you call them,
But yeah, the food, them cutting down, the rainforests down in South America are epic because they grow food for Americans. They don't grow food for their own people. A lot of those people are enslaved in like prison type settings who actually work on these farms. That's how you can get a $3.25, cantaloupe from Honduras, at your grocery store here on the West Coast, when that cantaloupe should be around $25 now, right? Because they're tearing down the rainforest and all the trees in order to grow food that Americans want. But that's coming to a screeching halt because now that all the cryptocurrencies, all the announcements, the U.S. announced yesterday that it is officially using the USDC coin. So it's the official coin of the Federal Reserve and the Treasury now. Russia came out and said that they have 2 cryptocurrency coins, and a lot of other countries are backing their cryptocurrencies. It's going to be the new gold standard, but that's so that nobody can get something for free and steal their resources. So we are in for, more so than ever. Not being able to buy food is going to be so unbelievably shocking to Americans, and that it's not cheap because it's not fair for some of these other people. And some of these countries are going to hold on to their forests, and they're not going to allow them to be, planted so that Americans can have certain kinds of food. So a lot of this kind of stuff, is going to stop as soon as the new financial system takes off. And today we had a big hit. The COMEX is running out of silver. So we're right in there for the break in the old financial system, and then the new one's going to start up, and we're going to see the winners of that, which are going to be all the people that, have been raped and pillaged, and their new asset-backed currencies. And so we're just going to see a whole bunch of crazy stuff that's getting ready to unfold. I'm shocked that people aren't talking about food. They're not talking about growing food. It shocks me that nobody has food growing anywhere. I see no food being grown.
But there's a lot of things, like my last year's potatoes that I put up real nice. They're already sprouting.
Yeah.
I mean, things are just too fast in the whole idea of time and conditions have sped up. They're not normal. You know what I mean? Because you should be able to keep potatoes how long in a cool, undamped place?
Well, maybe, look at it like this, Mona. Those potatoes are trying to save the soil. Put me in some soil. Come on. I'm going to do my job. I want to help out.
I already got some. I got, whatever. I'm supposed to do the whole yard in potatoes?
Why not?
Yeah.
That's true. But
that's what my yard is. It's pretty much anything that I water has to be given somebody food, like the bees or me or
right. Oh yeah, no doubt there. Same here.
Well, think about if you have potatoes, what you have to barter with. You'll end up being the rich girl on the block. And there's a story. I'll just tell you guys this story real quick. And the story came to me around 7 years ago, and it was from a family of people who actually, I think this story came through a friend of mine that knew the people, actually. But what the story was that these people lived in Indonesia during a currency kind of collapse. Also, there was a food system collapse, and I don't remember exactly what the time frame was. I mean, I know a lot of countries had some pretty hardship, in the 90s, right? That was a pretty difficult period for a lot of countries, but they were farmers, and they farmed, as a family, 5 people in their family, a pretty good area. They had some land, and so as things were falling apart and money wasn't worth anything, the only thing that was worth anything was food. So what happened is people would come to them and say, give us any kind of food. Here's an emerald. Here's a pearl. Here's some gold. Here's some jewelry. Here's some, some of their prized possessions from families. Their gems. And so what happened was that these people would feed people for these gems. And so when the system started to get better, they actually had some unbelievable amount in gems and gold and everything else that they had acquired by keeping these people alive, and these people paying with the stuff that they took, that they actually could bring the whole family to the United States. I mean, it was some kind of unbelievable large amount of money, something over $1 million in gems and all the things that they had. But it just goes to show you that, you will give up, and if people are growing food, they don't have to feed you, and they probably are not going to want to feed you, and money is not going to be helpful, and maybe even prized possessions, as gems are not going to be helpful. But you have some potatoes, you might be able to like, do some really good bartering for just about, you'd be like the Queen of Sheba living on your throne. You're like, okay, give him 2 pounds of potatoes and I'll take that gun and that ammo.
Right.
Okay, you could have 3 pounds of potatoes for that bag of flour. Okay, bring me that flour.
You know what? That's reminding me. One time I had a dream that when I was thinking a lot about this a long time ago, and in the dream, it came to me seaweed. We should all be getting seaweed because it has so many minerals and stuff in it. And then people who come to maraud and steal stuff, if they are going to come, they'll look at that and go, "Ugh, what's that?" They're not going to even touch it. So seaweed's probably good.
Yeah.
The other thing is salt. People aren't talking about salt, but you can buy 75 pounds of really good Celtic sea salt, and that's going to be a huge bartering point too. I think is salt.
Well, yeah, because you can use it for everything, right? You can use it for dehydration. You can use it for cleaning wounds. You could use it for preserving food. Like salt is like unbelievable, like the amount of things that you can use it for. Plus keeping the mineral levels up in your system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's multifaceted for sure. Yeah, no, it's funny. I have a lot of salt.
Too. I'm a salty girl. I love salt. Yeah. And it's just really sad because so many things have been demonized and everybody's so afraid to listen to you because they're like, what? Eat fat? I'm not eating more butter. I'm not eating more salt. And it's like, that's the thing that's going to save people if they get back to eating eggs and salt and butter and bacon and fat, lard. It's really the only way that people are going to get saved if they start eating well, traditional foods like what our grandparents ate or parents.
Well, yeah, you think about so I tell people this all the time. So there's kind of a primitive nutrient that we don't get. I mean, there's a lot of them that we don't get in our diet any way, shape, or form. But one of them is called glycine. It's an amino acid. It's a primitive amino acid. Well, it's really essential in things like sleeping. Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to sleep well if you're not getting this amino acid. And so you can get it in a supplement, super cheap. But what does it come from? It comes from marrow, tendons, and ligaments. And that's just something we just don't eat in our diet. But let me tell you, if you were starving and you slaughtered your cows, you would eat every piece of that cow.
Right.
Well, yeah.
And
I mean, in the old days, they would throw the lean meat back to the coyotes and the dogs. They didn't eat the lean meat. They ate the organs and the fat. I was saying on my show the other day, I read part of, I've just reread a bunch of old books, Native American books, and the Black Elk Speaks. There's this one part where they're getting chased by the army, and it's a really pretty gruesome scene, but they were starving and they didn't have, they were literally starving, and they caught a deer, and they were in such a hurry because they were trying to run away from the armies and stuff. They took the fat out of the deer and left the carcass. And that kind of tells you, okay, so what kind of lies have we been told? And they know how to live in nature. They know how to what's the best, and the fact that they took the fat and left the whole deer behind, it's like, that's pretty interesting.
Well, but the thing is like, so I watched like a Paiute, type, bear, and then, how they break the bear down, to make medicine. And so they would have used fat for lots of stuff. And so they rendered all the bear fat into an oil. And then what was even more amazing about that is that you could use it for anything. You could, sip it. You could, eat a spoonful of it. You could cook with it. You could, make a salve out of it. You could infuse herbs into it, right? And then you could make an oil or a salve for topical treatment.
It makes the best pie crust is bear fat. I've never had it or tried it, but that's what people say, that it makes the very best pie crust.
Yeah, so I mean, like, rendered fat in general, could be used for so many things. And I was also reading recently, like, they use a lot of, deer fat. They'd render it and then use it to put the, live plant material in to infuse the oil so that they could use it for different kinds of medicinal purposes.
Hey, where did you see that at? Because I'm looking for that. I want to do that this year because I have a whole mess of tallow and lard, and I've got too much because I still have some from a long time ago. Usually I give it away to my patients, but I want to try to do that this year. And I asked Lady Horse on her show if she knows how to do that. She remembers her grandmother doing it. Have you ever done that? Like made the
It's super well, the thing is like you can either cook it on slow temperature. So for example, if I use dried plants, I have more of a tendency to cook it in a crock pot, but it has to be lower than the crock pot setting. So you have to leave the lid off. I usually put a stack of stuff in there so that the jars are getting barely warm, and then cook it for 3 days, because otherwise you'll deep fry your herbs, right? You don't want to do that. You have to keep it under a certain temperature. But what I like to do is I actually like to put the oil in jars, and then I like to chop the plants, and then I like to stuff it into the jars and the oil, and I like it to sit for like 12 weeks.
Yeah, I wanted to try. I don't think my skin does well with olive oil, so I want to try, but it does definitely do really well with the fat.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different. It's no different than the olive oil.
Well,
it's just you're going to have to keep it in a warmer place so it doesn't solidify. Oh, okay. So your choices are, cook it, which is really hard to control the temperature, and then you end up deep frying some of your, plant-based materials, which is not a good thing. But I like to just, put it in a warm place, not in sunlight, but someplace where it's going to be fairly warm, and then just let the,
I could put it, if I did it in the summertime, because it gets really hot here, I could put it in the garage, like up high, where the heat rises.
Yeah. Right? And I'd make sure to put like an herb in it that's, like an herb that's not going to allow it to go rancid too. So maybe
my comfrey went bad last year. I think I left it in there too long.
Rosemary is your best preservative.
What's that?
Rosemary is your best preservative.
Oh,
there you go.
There, like you could just put rosemary, the plant, in, right?
Yep, chop it up and stick it in there
with
your other stuff.
Oh, cool. That's good to know. Yeah, rosemary is really good because it also, a lot of people feel like it takes spirits out and stuff, like entities and things that we don't know about.
Well, it's also a pain reliever. Yeah, it's like in the aspirin family.
Yep, anticoagulant.
So it'd be good for a massage oil too if you were going to make the infusion into oil for massaging. Be good. Wow. Okay, that's good to know. Yay.
And it would make it smell good.
Yeah, we go out and collect St. John's wort on the summer solstice, because that's what they do in Germany. It's the tradition in Germany where they go out on that day and but they call it St. John's wort, not St. John's wort. Changed to John when it came over here. But that's been working really good for a lot of nerve pain and herpes outbreaks and stuff for my patients.
Yeah, best pain reliever there is, actually. I collect it every year and make salves out of it. I make a lot of salves out of it. Love it. And also, cottonwood buds are good too, but it's a little too late now, I think.
Oh, you mean when the little bud? You mean the sprouts on the branches?
Yeah, they're really good for pain as well.
They're not budding. They haven't budded too far right now here because we're high up. Maybe I'll go out and look for some if you want.
Yeah, and you'll be able to tell if the buds are ready because the tree will start to smell like the cottonwood. So there's always this smell effect when it wakes up. So, you wait to smell the tree, see if it smells cottonwoody, and then pick the buds. If it doesn't smell you can't smell the cottonwoody smell, then don't pick the buds. You just wait a little bit longer. And
Yeah.
those you can just chop up and put in oil as well and just let them set, you know. And infuse, and then take cheesecloth at the end and dump all your stuff through the cheesecloth and hold on to the plant mass, and then just really, you know, tie it up and really squeeze out every little bit of juice you can out of them. But yeah,
Probably
so many things. You know, it's mind-blowing to me how many plants there are that grow everywhere that help with pain. It's like mind-blowing to me.
Yeah,
What do you think, Mona?
like that.
All right, everybody, that's it. Hope it's been informative. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Later. Bye.